With that, we want to bring in Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, retired former Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. Dmitri Alperovitch also with us of the Silverado Policy Accelerator. General, to you first, are we surprised at all by Putin's tactics?
Well, I don't think at this point that we should be surprised, because all you have to do is go back to World War II and look what the Russians did in Berlin, and they have had a pattern of exactly that kind of behavior and that kind of war fighting ever since, to include in Syria, in Chechnya. They've done exactly the same thing.
Dmitri, you heard President Biden say that he wants to put Vladimir Putin on trial for war crimes. Does Putin even care about hearing that?
He really doesn't. I mean, I'm sure it annoys him, but he knows it's never going to happen, that you have to get through his nuclear arsenal first to get to him, and that's just not realistic.
General, as you look at the map, obviously the fact that the Ukrainians have been able to push the Russians out has been incredible, something that 35 days ago when you and I talked was not even an idea that we discussed because it seemed so improbable. Are we to believe, does Russian doctrine tell us that they then just move over to the east, or are they just going to prepare and then counterattack and come back in towards Kyiv?
No, I think that Putin has clearly changed his strategy here. My personal belief is that he's going for the land bridge. He right now is trying to consolidate his gains in order to strengthen his negotiating position when this thing is terminated.
You talk about when it's terminated. A lot of that depends not only on the United States, and after all of these pictures of the horrific Russian tactics, and you can see what they've done to Mariupol. Dmitri, you pointed out that once they get into Mariupol, what we're going to find in terms of Russian torture and slaughter is going to be even worse. But there's always this thing of do something, do something, do something. Dmitri, to you, German reliance on Russia, a third of its oil is from Russia, half of its natural gas is from Russia, $43 billion last year purchases from the Germans to the Russians. If the Germans said no more to Russian oil and gas, would that be enough of doing something to change Putin's calculus?
Well, it would impact them hugely economically, of course. Germany is one of the top buyers of oil and gas. But the problem you have is that Germany doesn't have many alternatives. In fact, Chancellor Scholz said that if they cut off Russian supplies of energy, Germany is going to go into recession. So he's going to resist it at all costs. Obviously, now you have the public opinion galvanizing, looking at the atrocities in Bucha and elsewhere in Ukraine and saying, we can't keep dealing with this regime. But it's going to take a lot for him to actually reverse course.
General, as you watch how the Ukrainians have fought and you see the result of the battle purely from a military standpoint, are we to believe that the Ukrainians still might have a chance against the Russian army in the east and could actually fully win this thing?
I don't think there's any question about it. If we give them the right support and we stop letting the State Department decide what they need, and we give them the MiGs and we give them the other material that they need, you just look at what they've done in 5 weeks. Look at how they have counterattacked, run the Russians out of cities that the Russians had already taken, and they counterattacked them and ran them out. And right now, what we need to do is believe in these people, because, yes, they can win at a great cost, I might add. And if we will give them what they need, we enhance their chances of winning this thing. I mean, actually winning, if we do what's right.
It would be incredible. Dmitri, you pointed out Russian state TV headline on Bucha. Civilians of Bucha were shot by the Nazis. The West uses a provocation in Bucha to force Kyiv to fight. Russia was appointed guilty of the massacre of the inhabitants of Bucha without waiting for the results of the investigation. Russian propaganda is almost writing checks that Vladimir Putin can't cash and his army isn't able to.
Well, this is now going overboard in terms of propaganda. They're actually trying to consolidate the Russian public, and there are signs that it's working, because Putin's popularity is going up. More people are supportive of the war, in part because they feel isolated. They feel like the whole world is against them, in part, of course, because of these atrocities. But they feel like they have to hang in with the one guy they've got, and that guy is Vladimir Putin.
You don't say much on Russian state TV without Vladimir Putin's either approval or you don't stay on TV very long. Russian TV host, even last month, calling for nuclear strikes on Europe as the war did not go Russia's way. Take a listen.
В Европе надо передать простую вещь. Вы получите ядерный удар по территории Европы.
General, how good is our intelligence about whether or not the Russian military would carry out a nuclear strike that Putin ordered?
Well, first we have to start with their stated doctrine, and their stated doctrine says that they could use a tactical nuclear weapon. That said, I think that this is what has paralyzed our administration, is a fear that they might do just that because their doctrine allows it. I am one who will stick my neck out and say, I do not believe that Putin will do that. And the reason is there's at least 3 other nations on the other side of that border that have nuclear weapons of their own. And I just don't believe that Putin is going to be willing to sacrifice everything, the whole future, his future as well as the future of Russia, by doing something that foolish. I don't think he's a crazy man. I think he's an evil man.
Dmitri, that's one vote that Putin won't use a nuclear weapon. You've been pretty good at calling this conflict so far. Do you agree?
No, I completely agree. Unless we actually get into conflict with Russia, unless we're flying missions to secure the airspace and shooting down Russian planes, I don't see the conflict escalating to nuclear weapons. If it's just the supplies of weapons, they're going to hate it, but they're not going to fight with us.
Gentlemen, we really appreciate both of you throughout this whole thing. General Boykin, Dmitri, it was great to see both of you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Leland.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.